It's time now for Igniting Change, a weekly provocative and empowering program where you, the listener, can ignite change. Now here's your host, Barbara Arnwine.
Get up, stand up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Igniting Change. Thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We got a great program for you. Yes, we're doing a national landscape. And so we're so happy to be able to bring you a national perspective on what's going on with this redistricting fight. Yes, you've been wondering what in the world, California, Texas, all this, what's going on, what's the president up to? Well, we're going to talk about all that today. But before we get into our program, I got to, just say a hearty, strong welcome to my co-host. You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Daryl Jones, one of the nation's most amazing attorneys. He is the chairman of the board of the Transformative Justice Coalition and just one of the most innovative and creative and bold advocates you will find in this nation when it comes to voting rights. Hey, Daryl Jones, how are you, sir?
Barbara Arnwine. My goodness. The nation is on fire today. You know, folks, it must be Tuesday. It must be noon Eastern Standard Time because we're talking about igniting change. But, Barbara, today is igniting change. We're talking about igniting change in these states that are standing up, trying to get rid of members of the Congress, trying to fight to get rid of people's rights to vote, trying to really, just water down people's voting rights. So this show today is about this national fight that's going on over redistricting, mid-year redistricting. Barbara, quite honestly, I had never heard of mid-year redistricting until this year.
It's usually illegal.
Never thought it was even possible. Right.
Yeah, it's
absolutely,
usually illegal.
Absolutely. So, we have some really great guests, Barbara, and I know that you're ready to jump into it.
Oh, yes. And I want people to understand that not only is mid-decade redistricting almost unheard of because it doesn't make any sense, the constitutional processes for, redistricting to be done, after the decennial census. But in any event, every 10 years, that is, not whenever you feel like it. And this president, he is so set on, trying to rig and sabotage the 2026 elections ahead of time because he knows about his unpopularity. Did you see all those polls, people? Down 24%. I mean, he's minus 24. He's in some areas, 66+% of Americans are disapproving of what he's doing. Come on. He knows he's in trouble. He's seen the results of November 4th. He knows he's in trouble. So he said, give me 5 more seats. Give me 1 more seat. Do whatever. But one thing people are missing, not only is this highly partisan, not only is it corrupt and wrong, but it's also designed to destroy black political power. So we're going to talk about that today. So let's bring on our amazing guests. We are so blessed to talk about our show today. The title of our show, by the way, is The Battle Over Congressional Redistricting, Fighting for Democracy, State by State. Did you hear me? State by state. So we are so glad to have with us today 5 amazing guests, just amazing guests, who will help you to get a perspective on what this fight is looking like. So we're going to start, by talking about the mighty state of Maryland, where Larry Stafford, the executive director of Progressive Maryland, will be bringing us his leadership perspective on how Maryland can respond. Larry has been pursuing his lifetime passion for organizing since the age of 17 as a student volunteer, and he was a member of ACORN, and he has fought against unfair housing practices. He's registered hundreds of voters. He has worked on numerous electoral and issue-based campaigns. He became the executive director of Progressive Maryland in 2015, where he has grown the organization's budget by 700%. Everybody, did you hear that? All these other executive directors around the country, 75%. And he's led their electoral efforts. We are so glad that he is here today. Welcome to Igniting Change, Larry Stafford.
Hey, glad to be here.
All right, now, we also want to welcome to our show one of the nation's most active. Woo, she's amazing. If you haven't followed her career, you need to. She is one of the nation's most active, most powerful voices when it comes to racial and social justice as a state legislator. You know I'm talking about Florida. I'm talking about the Florida House of Representatives, Representative Angie Nixon. Angela Nixon has been on the front lines fighting for affordable housing, great public education, fair wages, health care access. And beyond her legislative work, she's also a community organizer and entrepreneur. She co-hosted the Melanin Market, an outdoor marketplace supporting small businesses and promoting healthy food options. She has co-authored a children's book with her daughter, The Adventures of Moxie McGriff. So she is there, and when you hear about something going on in Florida, you can bet she's on the front line of the battle. Welcome to Igniting Change, Representative Angela Nixon.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's just so good that you were able to clear your calendar to join us. We also have joining us.
Yeah, and
all right now.
Nixon, it's a welcome back, right? It's a welcome back.
I mean, and of course, we last saw when we were all in Florida together, working with the Florida NAACP. It's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to have you on the show. And Daryl, come on, bring up our other guests. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. We're really pleased to have for their maiden voyage here on Igniting Change, a Gen Z, y'all. It's a Gen Z. Yunior Rivas is a breaking news journalist with Democracy Docket. Y'all heard of Democracy Docket? We've had Mark Elias on. Well, Yunior Rivas is with Democracy Docket as well. He reports on voting rights, election law, democracy issues across the country. His coverage often focuses on urgent developments in litigation and legislation, such as efforts to restrict voting access, gerrymandering battles. Rivas's reporting brings clarity to complex legal maneuvers and highlights the stakes for communities affected by restrictive election policies. By documenting these developments in real time, Yunior plays a crucial role in informing the public and amplifying the voices of organizers and advocates for fighting for fair elections. Folks, y'all give it up. Welcome on his maiden voyage here on Igniting Change, Yunior Rivas. Welcome, Yunior.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's amazing to be a part of it.
All right, and Yunior, watch your phone because you're dropping in and out. Okay, so get a stronger signal there. Attorney Denise Lieberman, welcome back to Igniting Change. Denise Lieberman is from the mighty state of Missouri. Yes, and she is the general counsel of the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition. Yes, folks, you're going, wait a minute, they're all over the place. I just hear Maryland, then I just hear Florida, now I'm here in Missouri. Well, get ready, folks, because we also have on to our show one of the nation's long-serving advocates for justice. I'm talking about from North Carolina. Yes, From Common Cause, North Carolina. We're so happy to welcome their long-term executive director, Bob Phillips. Hey, Bob, how are you? Okay. Denise, how are you, my dear?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you on. We're so tickled that you're here, and we know that you're going to help to fill out this national perspective on what's going on. So let's get started because two of our guests are going to have to leave us at 12:30. So let's start with you, Larry. Larry, there's this major effort going on in Maryland to fight try to get Maryland to help fight against this stacking of the House, this rigging of the 2026 elections. And so, like California, responding to what's going on with the presidential push, which we just unheard of, just so wrong. Tell us why, and what's going on in this Maryland fight. Why is Maryland getting into this particular battle?
All right, so I hope that you can hear me pretty well, but so Maryland is getting into this fight thanks to the leadership of our Governor Westmore on this issue and our Speaker of the House, Adrian Jones, who have observed what's happening across the country. As you mentioned, several Republican-led states, most notably Texas, moving forward with the open and transparent goal of rigging the 2026 midterm elections. They have made this desire very public, with the president himself leaning in to call legislators and calling these legislatures that he can influence to rig the maps in his favor, because, as you said, he knows that he's not popular. He knows that his policies have failed and that he has shown tremendously poor leadership. And so Maryland, seeing this across the country, our leaders here in the state have said that we cannot back down, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to make sure that we have fair maps that also can counter what's being done in other states, where we have one particular representative, Andy Harris, who's not been the best representative for the interests of our state out on the Eastern Shore, making it so that he has a more competitive election at the very least. And but what's happened, as you know, the Senate president of our state, Bill Ferguson, has decided to say that he wants to stand in the way on this fight. So a lot of what we have to do now is to make sure that senators and representatives in Maryland know that we need to actually be standing up and fighting back against Donald Trump's goal to rig the 2026 midterms.
Wow. And I know... Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Daryl.
All right, thanks, Barbara. Now, Larry, it's one interesting thing because, we have listeners all over the country and obviously throughout the DMV. They're listening to this show and they're listening to you talk about this one representative, this one member of Congress out of Maryland, and they're going to be asking the question, well, as one member of Congress, what difference could it make? And so I want you to respond to that, because I know when we talk about Missouri, we're only talking about one member of Congress. When we talk about North Carolina, we're going to be talking about one member of Congress. Can you share with our audience why you think things should occur for just one member of Congress?
Well, because these elections, unfortunately, both because of what Republicans are doing, not only through redistricting, their efforts to gerrymander their states to rig the elections, but we also have to talk about the efforts to suppress the vote, implementation of voter ID laws, calling on the National Guard to particularly be at different polling sites. We know that these types of tactics are going to be deployed in addition to efforts to gerrymander maps and silence the voices of Black voters and more Democratic-leaning voters across the country, right? And so while the polling has demonstrated. There was a poll I saw recently that showed on the generic ballot, Democrats were at a 14-point advantage, which is a landslide victory opportunity. So while there might be a popular vote advantage for Democrats, it could still ultimately come down to being a very close election because of these tactics. An election that can be so close in multiple districts that it could control of the U.S. House could come down to one seat. We can't take anything for granted, and particularly for what it means for our state of Maryland, this means hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue that we usually receive from the federal government. We have that at risk. We've already lost so much with the DOGE cuts to cutting our federal employee workforce in the state. I've had to witness people lining up in front of food giveaways and soup kitchens because people have lost their jobs and their employment thanks to this administration going on rogue and unaccountable. So if it means one vote, that could be the difference between people getting their paychecks, as we've seen, and people not getting their checks, between us getting the funding we need for education and not getting the funding we need for education. So every seat is critical.
All right now. And Representative Nixon, your governor has been in the national press quoted as saying that in response to President Trump's demands that there will definitely be redistricting in Florida in 2026. And according to news reports, the Florida House Select Committee on Congressional Redistricting will start its proceedings on December 4th. What do you hope Florida legislators will do to address this appeasement of the president to destroy the voting power of Floridians? And this comes, by the way, everybody listening, after a real long, ugly fight over the racist redrawing of maps, the Florida, maps, over the years. There's just been a lot of litigation about this, and sadly, the litigation has not protected the power of African American voters in particular. Tell us, what do you hope the Florida legislators will actually do, and what do the people of Florida need to do?
Right. So, yes, back in 2022, Ron DeSantis unconstitutionally drew maps removing 2 black congressional districts. That is the duty of the state legislature to do, and me and myself and former State Representative Travaris McCurdy actually led a peaceful sit-in and protest in response to that on the House floor. We were able to stop the proceedings right before the vote for a little bit over an hour. And so, honestly, what I would hope that the state legislature in Florida does is not continue to carry the water for Ron DeSantis. I am happy and a little bit hopeful, because I know that our current Speaker of the House, Danny Perez, has been pushing back on Ron DeSantis this past year and some change when he assumed the speakership. And so I would love for folks to just continue to push back and to really stand up, because what we have witnessed, my district, Duval County, is an area in which I represent a portion of Duval County. We were one of the congressional districts that was redrawn. Like, we lost Congressman Al Lawson to the redistricting process, and we now have Congressman Aaron Bean. Well, I tell you this, we never see Congressman Aaron Bean in our areas, and that is exactly what they're trying to do, really make it so that there's a lack of black representation especially, but marginalized communities and low-income folks. And so it's just very disingenuous the way in which they are doing this. But, it's all about power and control right now. And so I hope, like I stated, the Republicans have a spine this time because they rolled over previously because, of course, Ron DeSantis was trying to make a bid for the presidency back then. And so I just hope that they stand up and push back. And I hope that we, many of us who are against this, go ahead and partner and work in tandem as much as we can legally with community organizations outside doing a lot of the heavy lifting and really trying to educate the constituents about what's happening here in the state.
Tell people about, because a lot of Marylanders are listening right now to this show. Tell them how they can get engaged, involved in this fight.
Sorry, I lost audio for a second, but I think that's directed to me. So right now, the best two ways to get involved in this fight are I'll name three ways. One is the Maryland Redistricting Commission is holding meetings. The next one is going to be December 5th. It does appear that at least on the official website, that the registration to testify on this December 5th hearing is now full. And I think a lot of people have been signing up to get involved and testify, but I am hearing that there will be another opportunity. So go into redistricting.maryland.gov. It can be very helpful to sign up to be able to see the next opportunity to testify. Outside of that, call, email your Senate representative. You can simply Google who is my representative, and it'll take you to a few websites that will tell you who your Senate representative is, and they need to hear from you because people need to know how important this fight is. This means the economic livelihood for Marylanders, and also at a national level, it means accountability for a frankly rogue administration. And the last way I'll mention is, of course, going to progressivemaryland.org and signing up to volunteer as well, with plenty of opportunities for people to get involved in making calls to their neighbors, sending text messages, and getting involved in a number of ways to make sure that our representatives know that we need to defend democracy and we need to challenge this administration.
That's awesome. And similarly, Representative Nixon, how do people in Florida get involved? There are people are listening to this. We have great Florida audience also. Floridians are going, what in the world? How can I do anything? I kind of feel, isolated, powerless. What can I do? How do I make a difference?
Yeah, for sure. So I think number one is folks should never concede power, right? So we all have the ability to push and to build our power, and we just have to work together. There are organizations that are on the ground doing a lot of the heavy lifting and pushing really hard against a lot of this authoritarianism, this takeover that's happening from, the federal government as well as the state of Florida's government. And so there's organizations that folks should look to join. I would be remiss if I didn't speak about Florida for All. I was just previously executive director there for 3 years. And they're partnering with groups like Equal Ground, as well as members of, ACLU and Southern Poverty Law Center, Common Cause. And so they're doing work. They actually held a press conference here. I am literally about to run into another committee. It's committee weeks in Florida for the state legislature. And so they held a press conference today, and they're asking folks to come to Tallahassee or to email and call their state representatives and state senators because we have our first committee hearing on the 4th, on Thursday the 4th, in regards to districting right now. And so we really need to pressure my colleagues who are tempted to vote against the people. And so, like, making phone calls, sending emails, right? Also, just educating people and having conversations about what this will mean if they lose the representation that they, in fact, really voted for, right? Rural hospitals are going to be impacted. Low-income communities are going to be impacted because at the end of the day, they're going to try to put in people that they want in those areas. And oftentimes those people don't feel beholden to, those legislators don't feel beholden to the people. They are more so beholden to these big corporations who are actually padding their campaign coffers. And so voter education is really critical. I would say look to the Florida for Alls and the Equal Ground. They have amazing toolkits, public toolkits that provide information on how to get involved and engage and to let folks know exactly what redistricting is all about. And those are a few of the things that folks can do.
Well, thank you for that, Representative Nixon. And, if people want to get in contact with you, how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so folks can follow me on social media, Angie Nixon. If you look, State Representative Angie Nixon. Also, my email address, they can reach out to me via email, is angie.nixon@FLHouse.gov, Angie.Nixon@FLHouse.gov. And we are very responsive. We actually handle constituency issues for other state representatives that don't oftentimes respond. And so I think that is the main thing, right? Like we want to make sure that we have legislators on the federal and state level that are responsive to their community and to their constituencies. And the fear is, and the reality is that if these maps are changed, we won't have that. And so folks can reach out to me at that email address, and I look forward to being in the fight on the front lines with them.
Thank
you so much. We want you to get into those committee meetings because we need your voice. We need your seat.
Yes.
We need you at that table fighting for everybody in Florida for the inclusivity. So thank you so much for being with us. And I know we're going to see you on the front lines fighting again.
For sure. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. So, and Larry, we know that you got to leave us soon. Tell us, give your 1 minute, final thought to everybody listening around the country, listening in Maryland. What do you want people to know right now as you're getting ready to depart the show?
Yeah, one thing I want people to know is that we're seeing right now, and I don't know if people will see this as directly applicable to their lives. I'll explain why. The other day we saw that the Trump administration directed what would very well have been described as a war crime I believe in the Caribbean Sea, and making strikes against Venezuela, people in Venezuelan boats down there, where they issued a second strike that resulted in the loss of life for people who were already, clinging to just wreckage and floating in the water, right? And they issued a second strike, right? So there are war crimes being committed by the Trump administration under false pretenses, some would say, and we're seeing this on the streets in our very own cities as well, where ICE are coming out of vans, hopping and smashing people and taking them to undisclosed locations. And so what's greatly needed is accountability in Congress. And, that comes through investigations that the House can do to demand transparency and hold the administration accountable and revoke the funds for these types of activities. And so that's why this fight is very important. And I hope that everybody stands up to make sure that we have a free and fair election in 2026.
And Larry, I know that there's a commission meeting that's coming up this Friday, November the 14th at 4 p.m. for the Maryland Redistricting Advisory Commission, where they're going to be taking stuff from folks with regards to their
That's going to be December 5th, by the way.
positions on this?
Folks got that. Yeah, so that's going to be December 5th, this Friday.
Right. And Larry, is there a way that people can watch the commission hearing?
Yes, so redistricting.maryland.gov should have all the links that you would need to see that meeting when it comes up. So redistricting.maryland.gov, and and then you'll be able to watch and see it all unfold.
Thank you.
And I see, Larry, that the registration for that meeting is now full, but I know you want to encourage people that are living in the state of Maryland to write to their representatives, to their senators, to support the redistricting. Is that right?
Yes, that's one of the three things Larry laid out. Yes.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
And Larry, how do people get in touch with you, sir, real quick?
Oh, progressivemaryland.org is our website, and you can email me at larry@progressivemaryland.org, and it's Maryland all spelled out, not MD. progressivemaryland.org, larry@progressivemaryland.org.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you, and we'll continue to work with you here in Maryland to make everything happen that we can to fight back. All right, moving on now.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. So we've talked about Maryland. We've talked about Florida. Let's now move to Missouri. Oh, my goodness. Denise and Yunior, there's so much going on. First of all, Denise, as the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition, tell us, we've all been reading, and a lot of us have been angry about this effort to wipe out the Emmanuel Cleaver's district in Kansas City, Missouri. Tell us what in the world is going on in Missouri in this redistricting fight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara and Daryl. Missouri became the second state after Texas to heed Trump's call to gerrymander district lines to eliminate one of Missouri's two African-American members of Congress. And this is an 11-term incumbent, a former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, the former mayor of Kansas City itself, and they did so by taking the city of Kansas City and slicing it up into three pieces right along racial dividing lines. Just an absolute insult to the congressman, including people in Kansas City in the same congressional district as people all the way across the state, farmers on the Iowa border, who will now have to, if these maps stay in place, share a congressional representative, completely destroying an intact community for the sole purpose of rigging the 2026 elections before a single vote is even cast. But here's what I think is surprising, Barbara and Daryl, is that Missourians are fighting back. People underestimate the Show Me State, and immediately when this was passed, Missourians went into action because our Constitution guarantees the people, and this is the words of the Constitution, the people retain the right to reject laws of the legislature through the referendum process. And despite the fact that our lawmakers, including the Attorney General, who has sued the campaign and its director personally for collecting referendum signatures, saying, oh, you can't do this for redistricting, despite the fact that the Secretary of State has promulgated outright lies saying that over 100,000 signatures are not eligible to be counted, Missourians are on the road to collecting enough signatures to get these maps on the ballot, and that will put a halt on these maps until the election can be held next year. And we are in the final days. There was such little time to get this done, but Missourians across the political spectrum, including Republican leaders, I mean, the Speaker of the House of Representatives voted no on this, are stepping back and rejecting these political shenanigans.
Wow.
And Yunior, it's really interesting listening to what's happening there in Missouri. And I know that you've had the opportunity to cover it closely with regards to your writing. Can you share? Because Barbara, I've never heard of this one, where the Attorney General starts calling on ICE to try to stop people, intimidate people from gathering the signatures. Yunior, can you share with us what's happening in that regard?
Absolutely, and thank you so much, Denise, for setting up the context of what's going on with the people's right to a referendum, which is in their state constitution. But the GOP officials, lawmakers have been absolutely relentless at trying to stop this referendum effort, even before the redistricting plan was actually signed by the governor. As Denise mentioned, they were trying to throw out signatures that they call premature. They have initiated lawsuits after lawsuits personally against the organizers of this referendum. And they're even going so far as to calling ICE, calling federal immigration enforcement to try to stop and intimidate Missouri voters, Missouri signature gatherers, trying to stop them from collecting signatures. So they've actually not only called ICE, but they've actually opened up a state-level investigation demanding records from the firm that hired these signature gatherers, asking for their employment records, asking for their identifications, asking for their immigration records if they have any. So this is.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Walk me through that one more time. Who has called in ICE to do what?
Yes. So the Missouri Attorney General, Catherine Hanaway, who was appointed in August after Bailey went into the federal government, she has called ICE. She has announced on X that she has referred the referendum petition operation to ICE. Now she's saying she said that there's reports that they're hiring undocumented workers, but she has not shown up to this date. She has not shown any reports of that being the case. She has not said who these reports are coming from. So this is at the moment, this is completely baseless, completely shameless. Taking mimicking tactics from the federal government to try to stop this state-level referendum effort.
Wow.
And it's truly incredible. I mean, of course, this firm has done all of the eligibility, the W-9 eligibility checks that everybody does for every employee. It's absolutely baseless. But on top of that, Daryl, on top of all of that, they're also pouring money into Missouri to intimidate signature gatherers, including offering bribes up to $30,000 to signature gatherers to urge them to quit their jobs, not turn in their signatures, and leave the state. This has actually happened. And so when you see these kinds of dirty tricks and these kinds of shenanigans, they're scared about the power of the people. And there's a reason for that, because if these maps truly reflected the interests of Missouri, you wouldn't see so much pushback. And Missourians are going to knock these maps off. And I think that's what the nation is waiting to see. Why was Missouri second? Because Missouri is often used as the canary in the coal mine, if you will, to see if it's going to stick, to see if they'll just roll over. And now that Missouri has fought back, you see other states fighting back against this as well. You see Kansas and Indiana go, I'm not so sure this is the way we want to do business in our state.
Wow. And I want to Bob Phillips now from North Carolina. Bob, I guess when you've been listening to what's going on in Missouri, I don't know if you were able to hear Florida and Maryland. I know you're saying, my goodness, it sounds too familiar. Tell us about the battle over redistricting that's going on in North Carolina and the great work that you and Common Cause North Carolina are doing with all those amazing groups in North Carolina to fight against this outrageous gerrymandering of our government in North Carolina? Tell us.
Absolutely. Well, first, let me just say thank you for having me on. And I've been doing this for 25 years, and I always say, unfortunately, that I think North Carolina is number one in gerrymandering, voter suppression, and mischief. But I got to say, after listening to Missouri, I think Missouri now surpasses us. And I'm sorry to say that to my friends on the call, from Missouri. Indeed, we're the most litigated state in America, I think, arguably, regarding gerrymandering. And we have 14 congressional seats. Currently, it is a 10-4 split, Republicans with 10 and Democrats with 4. There was one and only one competitive seat here in North Carolina. And so last month, the new map was drawn, and now we are looking at an 11-3 congressional split for what is a purple state. We have a Democratic governor who wins by a couple of points. Trump beat Harris by a couple of points. We are a purple state. An 11-3 congressional map makes no sense. It was the first congressional, the historic black belt of North Carolina that they cracked apart, basically penalizing mostly black voters in northeastern North Carolina. That's the regional part of our state where the first congressional district lies. And it's made it impossible. We have had for the last 40 years an African-American serving in this seat. In fact, Representative Eva Clayton was the first African-American to be elected to Congress in North Carolina in the 20th century when she won that seat in 1992. Think about that. We went the whole 20th century until 1992 before electing an African-American to Congress from North Carolina. She's still alive at 91 years of age, sharp as a tack, and she and I and others went to the legislature and really called them out for doing what they did. And unfortunately, they did gerrymander this district. It will elect a white Republican, no doubt, in next November. We, Common Cause, filed a preliminary injunction with the court to try to stop this new gerrymandered map from going into effect next year. And unfortunately, last week, the 3-judge panel, 3 Republicans, 2 of them Trump appointees, denied that preliminary injunction request. So in North Carolina, our battle really is to, and again, I say this in a nonpartisan tone, but to help the Democrats and get out the vote in the state Supreme Court races, which we elect. We elect our state Supreme Court here and have them hopefully flip it in 2028 where we can get a ruling that reaffirms that partisan gerrymandering is a violation of our Constitution. So, again, I know that's a lot of information, but that's sort of where things are in North Carolina.
Wow. The thuggism, all this thuggish, behavior where, people just want to dominate through raw power, it's disturbing. Yunior, in the research that you've been doing and what you've been seeing, are there any trend lines that you think our audience needs to really note and to be aware of as we fight, to maintain and gain more power through this fight?
Absolutely. I mean, out of all the states, from Texas to North Carolina to Missouri, what we're seeing is a GOP-led legislatures under the order of Donald Trump pushing these gerrymanders, these blatant, some people would say they're racial gerrymanders. I think they're racial gerrymanders, blatant partisan gerrymanders, without any input from the community. They do everything in their efforts to try to prevent people from having an input, from having voters actually, give testimony in hearings that they have for these gerrymanders. They're rushed through in less than 2 weeks. I think North Carolina was only in 2 days. Missouri was less than 10 days. Texas was another rush process. So this is all happening. They're just bulldozing all of these gerrymander plans. And what we're seeing now in Indiana, they're even trying to stop the courts from having any say in this gerrymander. They're using a very fringe, very extreme legal theory called the independent state legislature theory to try to prevent voters and courts from having any any input into this redistricting process.
Wow. And also, Attorney Lieberman, Denise, what do you think? I mean, because you're watching this nationwide threat fight and everything that's going on. What do you want all the groups out there? I mean, you head up a mighty coalition. What do you want all the other groups, because this show is listened to by a lot of activists, what do they need to know right now that they should be doing, preparing, how they help in this fight? What can they do?
Remember that they still control the power. And that is exactly why we're seeing so much effort and so much money going into these redistricting fights. If your vote wasn't so powerful, they wouldn't be spending so much money and so much time and so much effort to take it away. And I think sometimes people forget that. They get so dejected when they see such anti-democratic efforts going on and such efforts to silence people's voices. But remember that you do have rights, and when you organize, you can defeat them. One thing I think was very powerful here in Missouri, because we have a table that's already intact with dozens of partner organizations. You know, this thing was rammed through in record time. We already had the infrastructure mobilized. We already had the coalition partners attending weekly calls, and we were able to get them on, a moment's notice to descend on the Capitol, and 5,000 people strong, and show their displeasure, and to get them into those hearing rooms to testify on 24 hours notice. So I think that's really important, to stay engaged with community partners so that infrastructure is ready. And two, use all the tools in your toolbox. And we've got like 4 different lawsuits here in Missouri that are all based on different provisions of our state constitution, which credibly is a lot stronger and more protective than the federal constitution is. We've got a Reconstruction era constitution in Missouri that actually protects the right to vote. Who would have thunk it? And so it's using all those tools, and while also running the campaign. And I think people have felt very empowered as they've gone out and gotten signatures for this referendum in record time. There's hundreds of thousands of signatures that have been collected to repeal these rigged maps. That's power right there. And the more that state officials try to get in their way, the more the people are pushing through.
And Bob, down in North Carolina, I noted that one of the cases down there with the redistricting was brought forward by some of the citizens, right? Shauna Williams and 5 other folks there in North Carolina. Could you share with our audience, and I think Denise did just such a great job of laying out some things that folks can do. Are there other actions that are going in place now in North Carolina to activate the voters, to activate people, to get them active, and to have a firm understanding, a complete understanding of what's going on with the redistricting process there?
That's a great question, and I will say, too, hearing Denise, it just makes me want to travel to Missouri and help with that referendum and those signatures. I really do applaud everything that you all have going on there. We're not a ballot initiative state, so we don't have that avenue. But to your question, we're going out and we're going to educate from now until November about why, and particularly in the Northeast, explaining to people why what has happened to them did happen, and just talk about how there are better ways, bills that are pending in the legislature, of course, are never considered, that would change the way we do redistricting in a much better way to produce fair maps. So that's really a lot of the education and going out and getting people to understand it, and really to try to put it on the ballot, asking our entire legislature is up for election. And, of course, most of the districts are preordained. There's no competition. But we do want all these folks to have to answer, why did you support the gerrymander? And, by the way, this is the most gerrymandered congressional map in state history that we will be facing in 2026. So a lot of, again, what we will be doing is just explaining to the voters across the state, and particularly in northeastern North Carolina, what happened with an eye toward this election season where one of our state Supreme Court justices is up for election, an African-American running for re-election. Again, we're nonpartisan, but we want people to understand what's at stake and understand how important this race is. Again, with an eye towards 2028, where the state court, the North Carolina State Supreme Court, could give us the relief we need, and that is that they can rule these bad maps unconstitutional.
Wow.
And that's excellent. And one question for Yunior. Every time, a lot of us who are in the activist community, one of our greatest, anger spots, I would say, is the media, is the way in which they fail to really cover these issues well, where they fail to really question, horrible, unlawful activities, where they don't go after the thugism that was mentioned with the ICE and et cetera. Junior, what is it? How do you feel when what's going on with the media coverage? And if you had a magic wand, how would you wave it to change the way in which these particular issues of redistricting are covered?
Absolutely. We can't depend on the legacy media, on the big newspapers and big news channels. We saw from the beginning how easily they capitulated to the federal administration, actually giving them funds, after lawsuits. They just give in so easily. So there's not something that we can, unfortunately, we're not at a point that we can rely on national media, on legacy media. So I implore people to support independent media, local media, especially local news outlets wherever they are, whether they're in Missouri, whether they're in Maryland. Check out your local newspaper, support your local newspaper. Today is actually Giving Tuesday. So if they want to, donate to their local newspapers, to independent outlets who have no corporate overlords, who have no, ties to the federal government, support how you can, whether that's monetary or just checking out their content. That creates an ecosystem where we actually have journalists who are willing to hold these people accountable, who are willing to investigate, this corruption, this wrongdoing at all levels of government. So I hope that, in this show especially as well, I hope people tune in and read and continue to support any avenue they can that is actually holding these people accountable.
Wow. So proud of you, so grateful for your journalism. I hope all the Gen Zers who are listening are saying, hey, this could be me. How can people get in touch with you? How do they keep informed of your work? How do they get in touch with you?
Yes, they can check out democracydocket.com. That's democracydocket.com. We're all in all the big social media channels, especially Blue Sky. They can reach out to me personally at Rivas, RIVAS, at democracydocket.com, and I hope to stay in touch with a lot of the listeners.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the same to you, Bob Phillips. Thank you so much. You're executive director with Common Cause down there in North Carolina. We know you've been a longtime leader in protecting voting rights in North Carolina. How do people get in contact with you, and what are your parting words?
Well, first, again, thank you so much for having this program and inviting me to be a part of it. CommonCauseNC.org is the place for folks to come if they want to find out more information or ask questions. Provide advice. We accept everything. And again, I would just tell folks, and particularly as it was mentioned, Gen Z, young people, it's our democracy. It's our turn to fight back and to be involved. And that's what we always tell folks. It really does. The voice of the people always, always matters. And sure, there are setbacks. It's a long journey, a long battle, but there's nothing more righteous than this fight for fair maps. So I just echo what other folks are saying, and that is just everybody, let's fight together. We're all in it together. Just stay involved.
And Denise, You're always there when we call. Whenever we pick up the phone and say, hey, Denise, we got a question about Missouri, you're there with the answer. You're there ready to protest and do whatever we need to do. Could you share with our listeners how they can get in contact with you and your closing words?
Of course. Well, I don't need to tell you this because Transformative Justice Coalition models this for us every day. But the fight for democracy is a 365, 7 days a week, 365 kind of job, right? This is not something that we leave just to election years or just to one particular race. This really is the fight for the soul of our nation and a fight for freedom and liberation. You don't have the right to vote if you don't have a voice in your government that is fair and free and accessible. Then you are not free, and I truly believe that, and that is why this fight to build a more inclusive democracy really is and should be a big tent. It's how we envision the future that we want to see for ourselves and future generations. Folks can get in touch with the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition at movpc.org. And I also just want to give a shout out and thanks to Bob Phillips at Common Cause for someone who's been doing this work for so long. And so many of us who have worked in North Carolina over the years have been able to be the recipients of his knowledge and tutelage. So thank you.
Thank you to all our guests for all your great work. I want to turn our audience attention to Giving Tuesday. Yunior mentioned it, and we want to mention it also. TJC is a 501c3 tax-deductible organization, and we really want to urge everyone to give to TJC, to Transformative Justice Coalition. So you can go to tjccoalition.org and give. If you love this program, if we love all our listeners around the country, if you love the work that we do fighting for voting rights, if you love knowing that we make a difference, then please become a supporter of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Again, tjcoalition.org. Daryl?
Thank you, Barbara. tjcoalition.org, folks. We need your support. We need your help so we can continue to go around this country and fight for justice and fight for the right to vote. That's at tjcoalition.org. Folks, let me tell you, if you are in the Nashville, Tennessee area, today is your voting day for Congressional District 7. Need you to get your vote on. We tell you, and we tell you again, there comes a time when you need to stop talking and start voting, start showing your power through your vote. This is that time, if you're in Congressional District 7, to show that power through that vote. Folks, it is that bewitching time. Our hour goes by so fast. Much thanks to Representative Angela Nixon from Florida for being with us today. Much thanks to Larry Stafford, Jr. with Progressive Maryland. Big thanks to our homegirl attorney, Denise Lieberman, who's always on the front lines with Missouri Voter Protection Coalition. And to our new friend, Yunior, you can't leave us. We found you. We got you. You're one of us now. Yunior Rivas with Democracy Docket. So much thanks to you. So much thanks to Bob Phillips with Common Cause. With Common Cause out of North Carolina. Bob, we got you. We're going to be in Carolina. We're going to be looking you up and working with you some more as we move forward. Folks, as we close out this day and this particular show, we encourage you to go to tjcoalition.org for Giving Tuesday. If it's $5, $10, whatever you can contribute to help us keep pushing democracy forward, we ask that you give it. Until next Tuesday, noon Eastern Standard Time, get off the sidewalks, get into the streets, and get into some good trouble. Peace, everybody.
Peace.